Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 5 of the Autistic Voice Project. And as always, voice stands for validating our identity, culture, and experiences. I'm Matt Lowry, LPP. I am a licensed psychological practitioner in Kentucky.
And I am Dr. Erin Finley, PsyD, psychologist in Napa, California.
And we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. I know that you wanted to talk about autistic identity versus diagnosis.
Yeah. So I thought that it would be useful for our audience to get a chance to hear from us a little bit about self-identification versus self-diagnosis versus medical diagnosis. And I specifically, this is just me. You can do whatever you want, but I use the term self-identification because that's about understanding your identity. Medical diagnosis is really about understanding if you qualify for medical support, and there's tricky business there, as you well know, my friend.
Yeah, especially if you're, an adult.
Right. Especially if you're an adult, and especially in these political times.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted to talk with folks a little bit about what the self-identification process might look like and what it might mean to yourself to self-identify as autistic.
And rumor has it, I had a book about that for about 2 weeks.
Okay, but I have a feeling that you're gonna
tell us more, psychologist. Because, the last person I had was not a psychologist. Yeah, tell us more about this whole diagnosis versus identification thing. Why might someone need a diagnosis? Who gets a diagnosis? Why don't they get a diagnosis? How could a diagnosis be tricky? And are you autistic before a neurotypical doctor tells you that you're autistic?
Okay, well, let me just start with that question, because the answer is yes. If you're autistic, you're autistic, and it doesn't matter if a neurotypical doctor tells you you are or you aren't. If
really?
You're autistic, you're autistic. Yeah, really.
So you're telling me that these gatekeepers out there are gatekeeping all the gates when they don't need to be gatekeeping all them gates? What's up with that?
And those gates are unfairly kept. Let's put it that way.
Yes, they are also very expensive gates.
They're also very expensive gates.
If you are a person who presents as female with eye contact and may or may not have children, those gates are often closed because, quote, you can't possibly be autistic.
Well, of course, because if you have any modicum of a social relationship with anybody at all,
yeah,
or if you're able to make eye contact, whether or not it's, incredibly uncomfortable and distressing, or whether
for those on
not,
the YouTube, I'm making the eye contact.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
I'll stare deeply into your soul.
Oh
yeah.
God,
go on.
My soul needs to have a bathrobe on now.
Yeah.
Nothing personal. It's I love you, Matt, but
yeah.
friends love you, right?
It can be creepy, yes.
But it can be very uncomfortable to have people staring at you in the eye or in both eyes. But anyways, so let's talk about the diagnostic criteria for a second in the DSM. Okay, DSM, right? I know this is actually, and I need to tell everybody that this is actually one of the things that got me to get to know Matt in the first place. Because Matt, you came up with your color wheel diagram, which is fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I was like, dude, you need a website, because he had also gotten some airtime on TikTok. And I'm like, dude, you need a website. He's like, yeah, I know, but I don't know how to do that. I'm like, dude, I can make you a website. So I made his website.
You're good at the websites.
Yeah, I background in printing and shit like that. But it was the ideas in your color wheel diagram and in your strength-based autistic criteria that were like, this guy knows something and I want to get to know him. Seriously, I'm not kidding. If you go back in our Facebook messaging, you'll see me messaging something to the effect of, I have a brain crush on you, I think is what I said. So there you go.
I appreciate that.
I do, and I still have a brain crush on you, Matt. You're brilliant, and I love that.
I try.
So, well, I mean, you know, we all have our quirks, but really, like your level of insight and your way of articulating things is really incredible. And I think that's why many of the folks who listen to us and who have transferred over from, or who have started to listen to us from your previous podcast, are still with you, because of the reality of how you name things. And so the criteria. So let's circle back to a second for the DSM criteria, because I know that you have lots of thoughts about this. So why don't you take it away first? I'll add some things after that.
As a matter of fact, for anyone who's interested, as you're reading this, I will be doing a class with Kate McNulty at the Chicago School on how to do an affirming autism diagnosis based on these sort of explanations of the criteria, rather than the whole, you know, crappy way. So the biggest thing about the DSM criteria is that everything is based on how awkward it makes neurotypicals in your sphere of influence feel. Because it's not about you, it's about the people around you. And again, when coming up with this, the people who traditionally study autism study young white cisgender boys. And they observe young white cisgender boys acting awkward, talking about trains, running in circles, playing with wheels of cars, that sort of thing. And this is why a lot of the research is deeply, deeply flawed, because those are the people they seek out to include in these studies. They don't include girls, they don't include trans people, they don't include non-binary people, they don't include adults or teenagers. They just study what they know. And again, I stopped taking insurance a while back because a major insurance company told me that adults can't be autistic and they didn't pay me. Yeah, so we look at this from the diagnostic criteria. Do you happen to have the DSM proper criteria pulled up? I found my version.
I can get it pretty quick if you need it.
Yeah, because if you want to talk about what the officials say versus how we can reframe it, and then we can talk about the other stuff.
Yeah, okay. So why don't you go ahead and keep talking? I'll pull that up. Okay,
so in order to meet diagnostic criteria for ASD, according to the DSM-5, a child must have persistent differences in each of these areas of social communication and interaction, plus at least 2 of the 4 types of repetitive behaviors. So, once again, it's all based on social awkwardness and repetitive behaviors, both of which irritate neurotypicals. The neurotypicals don't understand why we do what we do, and it causes them some level of distress, and they say, hey, go fix this child. And so I say that we need to reframe this and rephrase it and change it around a bit, because it's incredibly ableist. And let's see here. Do you have it up, or because
I am pulling it up right now.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Are you ready?
What is A?
Okay, so first of all, I'm just going to apologize. This is going to be written in an incredibly ableist way.
Ableist is the word for discrimination against people with a disability, i.e. people who are autistic, because we live in a world that is not designed for us, and due to the social model of disability, because it is not designed for us, we do not fit in, and therefore we are disabled, because we are not able to do the things that others do in the society. Please go on.
Okay. So apologies. Persistent deficits in social communications and social interactions across multiple contexts, as manifested by the following, currently or by history. Examples are illustrative, not exhaustive. See text. All 3 must be present. Okay. Number 1, deficits in social emotional reciprocity, ranging, for example, from abnormal social approach and failure of normal back and forth conversation to reduced sharing of interests, emotions, or affect, to failure to initiate or respond to social interactions. Number 2,
which is very interesting, because Erin and I are qualified to diagnose autism. If we have a neurotypical enter our office and I say, For instance, like, did you know that there's a recent crossover between Masters of the Universe and Transformers? Isn't that cool? And if a neurotypical says, I don't care about that, I can officially say, man, I'm going to check that box that says that you are not reciprocal.
I mean,
yeah,
it's true.
What a weird, because that's very interesting, sir. Why don't you find that interesting? You clearly have a deficit. Please go on.
Deficits are in the eye of the beholder.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, anyways,
yeah.
Number 2, deficits in nonverbal communication. And for those of you who are just listening by audio, I'm including the word deficits in big, massive air quotes. So, deficits in nonverbal communicative behaviors used for social interaction, ranging, for example, from poorly integrated verbal and nonverbal communication to abnormalities in eye contact, abnormalities in big ass quotes, in eye contact and body language, or deficits, again, quotes, in understanding and use of gestures, to a total lack of facial expressions in nonverbal communication.
Which again is odd, considering that we can be very expressive. We can do all of these things, but again, it's not in a neurotypical nonverbal language. But
yeah, not neurotypical, not allistic, which again, for those who are not familiar, allistic means non-autistic.
Yeah.
And then criteria 3, or criteria A3 is quote unquote deficits in developing, maintaining, and understanding relationships, ranging, for example, from difficulties adjusting behavior to suit various social contexts, to difficulties in sharing imaginative play or in making friends, to absence of interest in peers.
Man.
Okay, so severity, quote unquote severity, because,
Yeah. Because again, they really want you to look at the eyes and talk about the things that are appropriate to talk about in appropriate ways, quote unquote.
Yeah, so quote-unquote severity is based on social communication quote-unquote impairments, and can be listed as requiring support, which is level 1, quote-unquote, requiring substantial support, which is level 2, quote-unquote, and requiring very substantial support, which is level 3.
And again, we don't have anything about what substantial is, or what very substantial is, because
it is a judgment call.
Exactly.
By according to people. The neurotypical who is assessing whether or whether or not the person has quote unquote deficits.
Yeah, but I have rephrased criterion A as being different social communication and interaction, as evidenced by the following: 1, differences in communication, a tendency to go off on tangents, tendency to talk passionately about special interests, and tendency to not engage in small talk. Neurotypical, analytic person might say, boy, it's a Wednesday, but it feels like a Tuesday. Whatever the fuck that means. And we will say, yeah.
Usually I go, okay.
Yeah.
That's my usual answer.
Yeah. We just kind of nod or shriek. Either way.
Right.
We also have differences in nonverbal communication, including stimming while talking. I'm rocking back and forth this entire time. And if you're watching me on YouTube, I do what I call sprinkler head, where my head will just go and shoot out words all over the room, because why would I look at people while I'm talking? That seems insane. It's a very Western concept, because most cultures and almost all animals aside from dogs don't make eye contact unless they're going to maul you or have sex with you. That's a big thing. And I think that we should respect that. If a monkey is going to rip your face off, we should have that same humility. But looking at something else while talking and getting bored with conversation, because if a conversation is going nowhere, and if it's just meandering about the days of the week, what sort of surface level weather stuff, unless you're getting into the whole thing about the jet stream and the whole butterfly effect and how global warming is affecting all this stuff, then we're getting into the special interest territory. But if you say, man, it's not the heat, it's the humidity, I don't care. So we
To be fair, humidity can be really fucking uncomfortable.
It is. It's terrible. That's why I don't leave the house, because again, my house is very controlled in that regard.
Air conditioning.
Number 3, due to the above differences in communication, autistic people tend to be shunned by neurotypicals. Evidence shows that that is the case, and therefore are conditioned to believe that we're somehow less social. Because, once again, if you've ever been to Comic-Con, right now, the San Diego Comic-Con is going on as we speak. It is one of the biggest geek events of the year. George R.R. Martin actually had the first ticket to the first ever Comic-Con back in the 70s.
Wow,
and
cool.
Yeah, it is an event where we dress up in all sorts of cosplay. We go to panels. We talk passionately about the things we're passionate about. We buy way too much merch. It is where we thrive. My son's mother once got on me because she claimed that I would not talk to her friends when they would talk about the different types of alcohol that they liked, because I don't drink and I don't care. But we went to BotCon, the Transformer convention, Autobot, Decepticon, Robot convention. It's the greatest name ever, BotCon. And we were at a table for a dinner while Frank Welker, one of the most legendary voice actors ever, was talking from a separate room because he has sensory issues and he can't be around a whole lot of people because he's autistic as hell. Great guy. Got to meet him. He is autistic. But anyway, he was speaking on a screen and I was sitting at a table, and my son's mother was there, I was there, and like 4 other women were there. And I started making jokes about Transformers and making interesting relationships and talking about all this stuff, deep cuts about, why Transformers are important, this and this and this. These women were hanging on my every word. We were having a great conversation. They were laughing. They were touching me. I was just the life of the party. While my then wife was scowling at me, and she wanted to leave early. And as we got in the car, she said, "Why can't you be like this around my people?" And I said, "Because your people don't talk about Transformers." This is a thing.
I mean, yeah.
Because when we are in our environment, we are rock stars. We are very, very social. But when we are in uncomfortable environments with people who make us feel uncomfortable, we won't be doing that.
Right.
And that is just the nature of things. But this leads us to, because of my love of Transformers, Criterion B.
Okay, so the official DSM-5 TR criteria, Criterion B, restricted repetitive patterns of behavior, interests, or activities as manifested by at least 2 of the following, currently or by history. Examples are illustrative, not exhaustive. See text. Number 1, stereotyped or repetitive motor movements, use of objects or speech, e.g., simple motor stereotypies. That, by the way, means movement without purpose.
Right. We'll get into that. Without purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Lining up toys or flipping objects. Echolalia, which is a repetition, could be internal, could be external, but it's repetition. Idiosyncratic phrases. So that's number 1.
Echolalia is the gift that keeps on giving and giving.
It is.
And giving. And
giving.
giving. And giving.
And over again. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
2, insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routines, or ritualized patterns, or verbal, nonverbal behaviors, e.g., extreme distress at small changes, difficulties with transitions. Yes.
Oh my.
Difficulties with transitions, rigid thinking patterns. Again, rigid. Just put air quotes around all this, please.
Yeah.
Because my fingers are getting tired.
Yeah.
Greeting rituals.
Yeah.
Needing to take the same route or eat the same. It says, or eat food every day. I think they mean eat the same food every day. Because I'm pretty sure most people eat food every day.
Neurotypicals are like pythons. They eat once a month and that's it. That's the reason.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never been one.
Yeah.
Number 3, highly restricted, fixated interests that are abnormal in intensity or focus.
Abnormal. Oh my.
Abnormal, right. E.g., strong attachment or preoccupation with unusual objects, excessively circumscribed or perseverative interest.
Perseverative.
Yes.
Such pejorative terminology on everything.
I know. And then number 4 is hyper or hypo reactivity to sensory input or unusual interests in sensory aspects of the environment, e.g., apparent indifference to pain or temperature, adverse response to specific sounds or textures, excessive smelling or touching of objects, visual fascination with lights or movement. Severity.
Because neurotypicals never watched fireworks.
Right. Or smelled perfumes.
Right.
Severity is based on restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior. Check only one. And again, it's
only one, you
support.
say.
Well, requiring support, requiring substantial support, requiring very substantial support.
Because, again, the bullshit levels based on capitalism. But we'll get to that.
Right.
So
tell us yours.
So my version is repetitive behavior or interest as evidenced by at least 2 of the following. 1, stimming. Stimming is a self-stimulatory behavior, and you can do it in any of your 5 senses. Well, any of your 8 senses, because there's more than 5 senses. Did you know that? The neurotypicals don't. One time, so slight tangent because we go on tangents. This is the way we do things.
And we refuse to edit them out either.
Exactly. Yeah. So screw you, editing. So one time when I do evaluations, I talk about proprioception, vestibular stimulation, and interoception because they're all very important. Interoception is this internal sense of awareness inside the body. We talked about it when we talked about the alexithymia. And I always ask people about how they feel things, how they feel hunger, thirst, feeling full, sleepiness, exhaustion, emotions, all this kind of stuff. And I put it in my reports. And this woman gave it to her therapist, and her therapist said, I don't know, it looks a little sketchy. I've never heard of interoception before.
What?
I'm like, there's Google, man.
I know, right?
So
yeah, interoception is a real thing.
Yeah, so you can stim in any of these 8 senses. For instance, like eating is what we call gustatory stimulation. And if you enjoy eating and tasting new foods, if you have a spicy palate, that's gustatory stimulation. If you like gum, if you like drinking things, that's gustatory.
Or how about soda bubbles?
Oh, yeah, yes, that's a big one. Because, yes, if you want to feel the nice...
Carbonation?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the whole reason I drink Coke. Because, it's essentially sugar water, but it feels good.
And it's delicious. Let's be honest.
And I am rocking back and forth because autistic people had to have invented the rocking chair, because we need that proprioceptive and vestibular stimulation. Proprioception is awareness of your body in space and time, and vestibular stimulation is your inner ear. So if you're moving around and you need to walk on your toes, walk on the sides of your feet, balance, dance, spin around, all of these things, these are forms of stimming. Listening to a podcast can be an auditory form of stimming. Listening to Taylor Swift over and over again is a form of auditory stimming. Watching TV, watching your favorite shows is visual stimming. I
can't tell you how many times I've listened to my favorite audiobook. I cannot tell you. I literally can't.
It brings you joy and comfort, which actually brings into the second part of this. Yes, knowing that there's predictability in the world of chaos, this is the way that we do things.
That matters.
So we do all these things to self-regulate, because when we're bored, we do this to wake our bodies up. When we're overstimulated, we do these things to calm our bodies down. This is a form of homeostasis because our brains and meat bodies are more highly attuned to our world than that of allistics. And they don't understand this concept at all. Right. So stimming or engaging in echolalia, because again, echolalia, the gift that keeps on giving and giving and giving and giving and giving and giving, because we like to repeat things that sound fun. We like to do this. Or that
feel fun.
Or feel fun. So there's a thing called echologia if you repeat it inside your head. If you've got a song playing on repeat or you have quotes playing in your head, that's echologia. That's a form of stimming. That's playing with language.
I have an internal soundtrack that never quits.
Exactly. If you do palilalia, where you make up sounds and go, or this kind of thing, if you accidentally repeat others' movements, That's echopraxia. And because we have hyperconnected mirror neurons, this is a very common thing for autistic people, where we accidentally repeat others' movements, repeat others' accents, repeat what others say, and then we are seen as rude or mocking them when we honestly don't have control over it, or we do have control over it. We're just doing it because we like it.
Right.
And
we might actually be showing deep appreciation for the person or their accent or whatever, or be doing it unconsciously.
Exactly. I had a good friend from grad school, and we went together to a BotCon because that's where I socialize. And we went to Arby's at the food court, and my friend said, "Oh man, that's a long curly fry." And I was like, "Oh, that's a nice earworm. I like that." And I kept using the term, "Oh man, that's a long curly fry," for a lot. And I'm sure he thought I was making fun of him. But no, that's just a fun thing to say, damn it. And if you have a fun thing to say, you should be able to say that fun thing and play with language.
That's right.
The Aulistics don't get it.
That's right.
Yeah. But number 2, security and routines. Once again, because we don't have that sensory filter, that sensory bottleneck that Aulistics have, we process so much more data than Aulistics process. And because of that, we perceive the world as being in a constant state of chaos. And up until, this is a good time to talk about this, up until just a few hours ago, I thought that the 1989 Batman by Tim Burton was the most autistic movie ever made because of this. Because the Joker is the embodiment of chaos, Batman is the embodiment of order. Batman stays in his basement while his butler throws parties for him, while Batman dresses up to go punch chaos in the face. But the Fantastic Four movie is out now. And canonically, Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, is autistic in the comics. And Pedro Pascal plays him in the movie. A detail that I forgot that Mr. Fantastic was canonically autistic until Pedro Pascal showed up in the movie, explaining how, because he is constantly overloaded with all the variables, he sees everything as equations. And he has to solve all the equations for everything. And he is thrown off because his wife, Sue Storm, is pregnant. And he doesn't know how to deal with this. So he decides that he's going to start solving all of the world's problems and solve crime and solve all of the things and make a, radiation-proof buggy bumper, all these things until Galactus, the Devourer of Worlds, comes in. And then that's a problem he can't account for. And there's a lot of arguments between Sue and Reed because Reed is deeply in his head. He doesn't show emotion like Sue expects. At one point, she talks about how she can be frustrated with him, and he feels bad about it. And there's a bit of internalized ableism where he wonders if his son is going to be like him. And this is a very, very interesting dynamic between all this. And if you heard our last week episode about Cassandra syndrome, this very much ties into this. And whoever wrote this movie really, really, really gets this on a level that it was very unexpected. So
I wouldn't be surprised if Pedro Pascal doesn't have some insight too, because first of all,
his sister is
Pascal, trans, and his sister is trans, and there is a huge overlap.
Yeah.
Not a 1-to-1 ratio, but there is a huge overlap between being trans and being non-cisgender.
Yeah.
And being autistic. And so I wouldn't be at all surprised to find out that Pedro Pascal has some lived experience of some kind or another that helped inform him as he played this role. Also, he's just fucking awesome. He's just awesome.
Lots of justice sensitivity there.
He's an amazing human.
He speaks out. And again, his stereotype is caring father figure who takes care of magic babies. And that's a hell of a role. No wonder
we all want him to be the internet's daddy.
Yeah, he is healthy masculinity at its finest.
Yes, he is.
And that's the thing about all this. He brings a gravitas to this role that he gets. So it would not surprise me. And this is the thing, because as we talk about identification versus diagnosis, there's a lot of people who say, well, he did not see a doctor and undergo a DSM, undergo the ADOS. And therefore, you cannot say that he is autistic, but we can look at these traits because we have these traits that we identify each other with. And we use a thing called peer review, where if enough autistic people say, oh, yeah, that checks out, we could say, oh, yeah, I think that he's a member of our community, perhaps.
Right.
Because we don't medically diagnose, because we don't do the testing, but we can say, yeah, that checks out. We accept him into our community.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So we see the world as chaos, and therefore we need these routines. We need to control what variables we can control in order to feel secure. Just as Reed needed to take care of all these things to make his baby secure in this chaotic world, we need to wear comfy clothes and eat comfy food and control the temperature and all of these things to make us aware of our place in the universe, and we absolutely need that. And this leads into our special interests, SPIN, special interest spins. And due to our hyperconnected brains, we are more passionate about what we love. So when we have a special interest, we tend to fawn over and fixate on it. We have a thing that I like to call data hunger, where if we love something, we have to research everything about it. We will spend long hours on Wikipedia. We will get all the books we can find. We will watch all the documentaries we can. We will learn every damn thing and be an expert on this. And you can see this in kids where, they will say, oh, yes, I am researching sharks. But this is one of the things that a lot of holistic evaluators don't see is that with adult women, this can be child care because they say, oh, yes, I am having a child. I will learn everything possible to be the best possible mother I can possibly be. And then an evaluator will see that and say, oh, yeah, that's just a women for you. And
that's just good parenting for you.
Exactly.
They're not wrong, but
yeah,
in terms of the good parenting, not the gender roles.
Yeah.
But good parenting for sure. Like that's how so many of us turn into therapists. Yeah. Because we make relationships and people our special interests because we're trying to figure out how the world works.
And this is one of the things about the people in this field, because there's so many undiagnosed professionals that have this internalized ableism because they look at the DSM criteria and say, oh, this cannot be me, for I have systems to circumvent that, despite the fact that their special interest is learning how people work. And
also, minor fact, if you have a system to circumvent some quote-unquote disability that you have that thing.
That's the thing, yes. We thrive on the systems. We love our systems. Yes. And that is our security and routines because the systems are our routines. Right. But number 4, hyper or hyporeactivity to stimuli. Either you react big or you react too little. Again, unexpected. Due to hyperconnected brains, we feel things more intensely. But if we're in a monotropic flow state, we tune out the rest of the world. I discovered when I got divorced that when I was sad, I stopped feeling temperature. So I would go outside and not feel cold because I was too wrapped up in what was going on inside. And I just was not processing that data because I was overwhelmed with other data. And this is the way that we work. So if you run through things and you find that you have bruises all over the place and you don't understand getting them, it's because you had something else on your mind and you were processing it and you just didn't feel that pain, or something affects you very, very, very deeply and you can't stop thinking about that because this is how we work. It's just the way. But what is criteria C?
So criterion C is symptoms must be present in the early developmental period, but may not become fully manifest until social demands exceed limited capacities or may be masked by learned strategies in later life.
Systems.
Systems.
But, so we're born with this. We're autistic from day one. We don't magically become autistic and we don't magically stop becoming autistic. We learn to mask. We learn systems. And when we become stressed, this is Neurodiversity Unbroken. It has a great meme about how autism is a dynamic disability because our response to our environment changes with how stressed out we are at any given time. If we've had very little sleep, if we haven't eaten, if our needs are not being met, we're going to have a bigger reaction to all these stressors than we would otherwise. And this is a big thing that, again, the Aulistics don't get, because they expect that we will have this universal level of functioning at all times, which is why they like to call us high-functioning autistic, low-functioning autistic, Asperger's, or profound autism, because they don't understand that it's, we're humans and our functioning fluctuates. But what is D?
Criterion D is symptoms cause clinically significant impairment in social, occupational, or other important areas of current functioning.
Yeah.
For
again,
whom?
It affects others. Because that's the thing. The DSM only indicates impairment when it affects neurotypical people or jobs, but not when it's a daily issue that we learn to live with. If you're able to hold it together all day at work, and I am a people, look at me, I am being very efficient in getting all of my things completed, but you come home and crash and you can't move because you can't, do self-care. You can't take a bath. You can't do the laundry. You can't clean up the floor. You can't do these things because you're so exhausted from masking all day. The neurotypicals won't accept that because you're able to hold it together. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Criterion E.
These disturbances are not better explained by intellectual disability, otherwise known as intellectual development disorder, or global developmental delay. Intellectual disability and autism spectrum disorder frequently co-occur make comorbid diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder and intellectual disability. Social communication should be below that expected for the general developmental level.
And this is the thing. I got into trouble when I was working in community mental health because I did not do IQ tests for purely autism evaluations. So studies show that because of the hyperconnected brain, we're 80% more likely than Aulistics to be gifted because of the hyperconnected brain.
In some areas.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about the spiky profile. Because we can be very, very good at some things, not very good at all in others. And it's up to other people to judge what we're good at. When I was giving IQ tests, this is an interesting thing because we would commonly have working memory deficits because autistic people would overthink why the math question was being worded as it was. If there was a trick question behind it, be caught up on the math question from 2 questions ago, still trying to process it, while trying to process a new question, and everything would be thrown off. So even doing the GAI, general, because that would even be off because 2 subtests would be so far out of the ordinary, you couldn't get a full-scale IQ out of that. So, and this is the thing, because we have the same percentage of having intellectual disabilities as the general population. Neurotypicals, by definition, cannot be gifted. They also cannot have an intellectual disability because, by definition, neurotypicals have typical IQs.
In the middle.
Yeah. That's a definition of neurotypicality. And this is the thing, because, again, the people I worked with had this very weird bias about autistic people having intellectual deficits. And when you go to a professional and they say, oh, no, you can't be autistic, you're high functioning, or whatever nonsense that is. It's very insulting and it's ableist. And again, with our spiky profiles being very good in some areas, being very bad in others, we could do all sorts of immense great things if it's in our wheelhouse. But otherwise, for instance, I can get on here and talk all sorts of things about, redoing the DSM criteria and revolutionizing everything. But as Aaron can attest, I hate pop-ups. And I hate it when I have to do 2-factor authentication and go to multiple windows. I just want to bite my computer and say, I'll just scream at the weeds. I'll be fine. And this is the thing. And again, with the Fantastic Four, Reed Richards is one of the greatest geniuses in the Marvel Universe. but he's not able to articulate emotions that well. It's
Right.
just one of those things. And it requires us to rethink humanity. And because we are human, this is just a type of humanity. And we have to
Right.
look at autistic people as being human instead of this dehumanizing thing. But
Right.
right now, we're at about 41 minutes in. So I think that now is a good time to take a break. But in our next episode, we might be able to talk more about the spectrum graphic and talk more about what autism really is and those sort of things, if that would be a good thing to talk about.
Circle back to the self-identification versus medical diagnosis conversation, because I think that'll matter to folks too.
I think so. So right now we're going to sign off, but we will see you next time for another episode of the Autistic Voice Project. Have a good one.